Hey guys, meteorologist Chris Tomer here with this On the Snow Before You Go forecast. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you get notified when my latest forecasts come out. Let's jump into the spider chart here. Odds of best snow over the next 7 days. So these are the places that would stand the best chances of getting new snow. More purple, higher on the web, better odds. So what are we looking at here? Well, you've got Colorado somewhere in the middle of that web. You can kind of see that. The best chances in Colorado are across the western slope and in the southwest mountains through Telluride, Purgatory, and Wolf Creek. Alta, Snowbird, Little and Big Cottonwood Canyons stand a pretty good chance of seeing new accumulating snow, so they're much higher on the web. You've got places in the Sierra, which will be receiving new snow, up into the Pacific Northwest, up into parts of central and northern Idaho. The Tetons also in good position. Now in the Northeast, it's going to be a little bit of a battle between potentially some rain and also snow accumulation. So I don't have Killington, Stowe as high on the web, but you're still going to see some snow accumulation. All right, let me show you the big picture. So this is water vapor satellite imagery across the west. Where you see the whites and the blues, that's your moisture. That's your moisture. Drier air is in the blacks, the oranges, and the red colors. So what do I see? Well, you've got one area of low pressure moving across the Rockies through the 17th with snow accumulation for Utah, Colorado, Wyoming, Arizona, and New Mexico. And then you can already see, got a storm system here, another one here. So there's definitely some action which will be continuing to move into the West Coast, and these storms will follow each other right on the coattails of one another, moving through California and then down across a lot of the southern Rockies. That's what I'm expecting in the extended forecast. Here are my bullet points. So High Sierra snow continues on 11/17 above 7,000 feet. That's your rain snow line. Then that storm would continue to move, throw pieces of energy into the interior through Utah, Colorado, Wyoming, New Mexico, and Arizona. There's another storm for 11/18/19 and another one behind that on the coattails for 11/20 and 11/21. You can see the best odds of snow right here for Colorado, Tahoe, Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, and interior BC. So here's how you read it. For example, in Utah, accumulating snow, moderate to heavy accumulations from late 11/16 into the morning of 11/17. Light accumulation on 11/19, moderate to heavy 11/25. In Colorado, you've got moderate snow accumulations, late 16 into 17, light 18, light to moderate accumulations 11/19, moderate 11/20, and light 11/21. So I won't go through all those dates, but that's how I think it's going to play out. So let's look at the middle of the atmosphere. Atmospheric pressure anomalies. Monday 11/17. What do I see? There's our low pressure moving through the interior Rockies. You've got another one right behind it. Deep low coming out of the northeast with cold and some snow up there. So that's the atmosphere on Monday. How about 11/20? This is Thursday, 11/20. Another storm there. Another area of low pressure, lower than normal pressures there. So you've got a big drop in the jet stream out here with some cooler air being pulled in behind each low. Now this low right here is interesting because it may set up. It may move right across Albuquerque, and if it does, it could pull a nice northeast wind in to Colorado. That could be one of the first snow chances for the Denver metro area. And if that happens between Thursday and Friday, that could push some extra moisture up the Front Range high peaks through Loveland, A Basin, Keystone, Winter Park, up to Eldora. That could add some snow accumulation. So that's something to watch for that area. Look at the big high pressure, higher than normal pressures out here across the Great Lakes and the Northeast. So things really warming up there. Here's Saturday, 11/22. Low pressure, lower than normal pressure. Look how far south that thing goes into Mexico. And then it looks like potentially some lower pressures up there and a little low kind of clipping the northeast. So that's how the movement of systems, I think, will look over time. Let's look at total precipitation forecast over the next 7 days. So this will take us through the upcoming weekend. This is as if everything fell as rain. So what I like to look for are the yellows in this. Where you see the yellows? Right there, Tetons, Utah, parts of Colorado, of course up here in parts of the Pacific Northwest, Idaho, Montana. Where you see the yellows, that's 1 inch or more of liquid. That's the key break point, in my opinion, of 1 inch, because if you were to shift that or convert that over to snow, that's about a foot of snow. So there's a lot of that. Reds are 2 or 3 inches of liquid. That's a ton of moisture. So how does that look as far as 10 to 1 for a snow forecast? So this is 7-day total snow, 10 to 1 ratio. Wherever you see the deep purple, that's at least 6 inches. Where you see the bright pink, that's a foot or more. And if you were to see some whites break out, that's going to be 2 feet. So what do you got here? Over the high Sierra, at least a foot in most cases. And then you've got potentially a foot over some of the highest peaks in Utah, maybe more in southern Utah. You've got potentially a foot up here in parts of the high peaks in western slope of Colorado, southwest Colorado. You've got a foot up there in central and northern Idaho. You've got some pretty big totals, potentially 1 to 2 feet up there in parts of the Pacific Northwest. So you can see how that plays out. That's accumulation over time. Here's the southwest viewpoint. Same thing. Big accumulations where you see the bright pinks. Look at southwest Colorado. Easily at a foot in a lot of those locations. You've got Arizona Snow Bowl. You've got Bryant Head at a foot or more down there. So here's my official forecast. These are grand totals by 11/23. So you've got a storm system moving through 11/16, 11/17. So this does include some of that accumulation. About a foot here over some of the very highest Sierra, more up on Mount Shasta. A couple of feet here through Snow Bowl and Bryant Head. 6 to 12 up over the Wasatch with the higher end amounts and Little and Big Cottonwood Canyons. And some of those totals could be higher depending on where you're at. Western and southwest Colorado get the most snow with about a foot out there. Now, the numbers you see over the Front Range high peaks, Loveland, A Basin, Keystone, Eldora are a little bit higher because of that potential storm setup with that area of low pressure curling snow back over those areas. And then you've got a little area with less through Summit County, Vail, down to Breck, because that's going to be the area that's in between what's happening across the Front Range and what's happening across the western slope. 5-6 inches in northern New Mexico. About a foot up there, Jackson Hole, Grand Targhee. 4, 5, 6 inches up in the parts of Montana. 6 to 12 with a rain-snow issue at times up in the parts of interior BC, and about a foot up there through the Pacific Northwest. And again, a lot of that's going to be dependent upon elevation. Let's zoom into Colorado. Same time period, grand totals by 11/23. Again, the biggest numbers are out here, southwest and western Colorado, where you're looking at least a foot. There's your low zone, Keystone, Breck, Vail, Copper, down to Monarch, just less in that zone overall. Taking you up into the northeast, a couple of different waves, one initially, and then maybe a little clipper there on the backside. There are some pockets. Again, the deep purple is at least 6 inches, so you're probably looking at 6 to 10 inches there. Upstate New York, northern Vermont, northern New Hampshire, potentially way up there in northeast Maine. And again, at times there may be a rain-snow issue cutting into some of the accumulation. Here's my official forecast. Grand totals by 11/23. There's that 6 to 8 inch sort of zone up there, whiteface included. I'm not sure how much Snow Ridge will get. It could be more than that if it falls as snow, but some of that's going to be rain. 3 to 7 up here, Mount Washington, Cranmore, Sunday River, and Sugarloaf. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this On the Snow Before You Go forecast. Again, hit the subscribe button so you get notified when my latest forecasts come out. Appreciate you tuning in here. Take care and have a great day.